Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a very interesting figure to take a look at. It's been quite some time since we had a new basic figure from Mattel. I don't think I've actually reviewed one since the Spinosaurus. They haven't been releasing too many of them, but we do have another Pteranodon that has just recently been released. It's a greenish version as opposed to the brownish version we've had before. So I just received it in the mail, figured what the heck, I'll review it for you guys, even though we have seen the sculpt already and there's not usually too much going on as far as basic figures go. I figured I'd get a review up of it anyway because there probably won't be too many reviews out there for the Pteranodon. And I like to make sure that you guys can see pretty much each and every figure that you are interested in, if possible, that I can review it. So again, this is another really cool Pteranodon. You can see its head right there. Looks like it's a pretty nice looking coloration, sort of. We've got Owen and Blue here on the front. We kind of have like that older Jurassic World basic figure packaging here. You can see the Spinosaurus is also here on the back, as well as Velociraptor Blue and the Dilophosaurus, and of course the Pteranodon that we're going to be looking at today. So let's go ahead, break this out of the box, and take a look at it. So here is our newest version of the basic Pteranodon, and it's a little tough probably for you guys to see at this point because the figure is massive. As far as the Mattel Pteranodons go, definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest figures that they have Pteranodon-wise anyway, and it's a little tough to really see right now, so we're just going to go ahead, jump straight to the closer look, and we'll check it out from there. Now, as far as the actual sculpt of our Pteranodon goes, we don't need to look at that because we have reviewed the sculpt before. This is the exact same sculpt as the previous basic Pteranodon, just a new paint scheme. So we really only need to look at what's new, which again is the paint scheme. But up here on the face, you can see that we have a really nice greenish coloration for the Pteranodon. And we have kind of like almost like these mustard-like colorations up here that kind of stripe down and then run out here onto the beak. They only go so far out onto the beak though before having a very abrupt transition back to the green. I can also see that we have kind of like those black speckles showing up here and there, so even though it appears as though there's not really that much going on, it seems like there's only like 2-3 colorations on the figure. There is a little extra as far as those little speckles that we usually get on Mattel figures. The eye is painted with a really nice light green and is actually quite carefully placed. The pupil is the green that we have here, so unfortunately they did not add a black pupil or anything to the figure, which is a bit of a downside. The eye paint looks pretty good. This one here kind of looks like maybe it's missed the mark a little bit, but honestly it's not that noticeable. The previous side definitely looks better, but I think both sides look pretty decent for the most part. Once we open the mouth, because of course the mouth is articulated, we can see that there is absolutely zero paintwork on the inside of the mouth. So when Mattel says that these are basic figures, they really are basic figures. But you can see that everything inside, is sculpted nicely. Just we don't have any paint application in there at all. The jaw does work quite smoothly though, which is one thing that usually is a common trend with Mattel. We don't usually have too much of an issue as far as the articulation of their figures goes. As we continue throughout the rest of the body, you can see that primarily it's all just that one coloration of green. Same deal out here, although it does seem like maybe this is a slightly lighter green than you see here, but I think that might just be because of the material used. And it might just be the way the paint is playing off of that material. But as we lead out here into the wings, you can see a very dark green that kind of runs throughout the entire edge of the wing. It just kind of designs all over the place in a pretty sporadic fashion. It doesn't seem like there's any type of a specific design. It's just pretty much all over the place, and you can see that same deal over here when we get to this side of the wing. And I think the coloration actually looks pretty nice. It's definitely not the most appealing Pteranodon from Mattel, but it definitely isn't the worst either. And, that coloration, although not the flashiest look in the world, does still look pretty decent. Here on the underside, however, we have zero paint application at all, other than, again, the primary green and the speckling. You can see the speckling actually quite nicely throughout the wings of the Pteranodon, but that's really about it. Of course, there's no nail paint or anything, not on the feet at all. Nothing anywhere. So again, when Mattel says it's a basic figure, it really is a basic figure, but it is still a pretty fun looking Pteranodon. Now, as far as a size goes for our Pteranodon, it is quite large, and I'm almost knocking over the light here, but you can't see the full wingspan within view right now. So from one wing to the other wing, you are looking at about 19.5 inches, or around the 50, actually like 49.5 centimeters, closing in on 50, which is really, really big. Again, the Pteranodon's so big, he's actually quite complicated to get into view. And then for a length from the feet to the beak, roughly about 9.5 inches, or around 23.5 centimeters. So again, it is exceptionally large. And then as far as articulation goes, we do have articulation in the legs, but they move together. They are not separate. You do also have articulation in the wings, although it's a little bit stiff because I actually haven't moved them at all yet. So it's definitely, there we go. Shouldn't do that because it could potentially break your figure, but I did jam the wings there. They did move, and they are very stiff, but they do articulate. And then you also have articulation here in the neck, which moves really nicely, nice and smoothly, and then the jaw like we had seen previously. It's funny that I just got done saying how the articulation on Mattel figures usually works really well, and then I get stiff wings with this one. I actually recently had stiff legs with the Dilophosaurus from the Nedry set, but for the most part, they usually articulate really well, and once you warm them up, they work a little better. As far as a size comparison, here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our newest version of the basic Pteranodon. And like I was saying, you can definitely see that the Pteranodon is absolutely huge in comparison to these figures right here. Again, the basic Pteranodon is definitely the largest basic figure I think that Mattel has out currently, and sports an extremely impressive size. Even though it lacks in the paint department, it definitely makes up for it in the overall size. So this newest version of the basic Pteranodon from Mattel for the Jurassic World line is definitely a pretty fun figure, but it's not anything that you absolutely need to rush out, get a hold of instantly. It's not any type of a figure that is a must-have, but if you are a fan of the basic line, I feel like you'll definitely enjoy this figure. It overall does have a really beautiful sculpt. The actual sculpt is so accurate to a JP3 style Pteranodon and is absolutely overloaded with really nice detail like you usually find on a Mattel figure. So this sculpt is definitely a fantastic sculpt overall. The paint application isn't anything special. It's just very, very basic like the name says. You only have a few different variations of green and then a black speckling as well as, slightly light green eyes, and that's about it. You have no paint inside the mouth, you have no toenails or anything, fingernails, nothing like that, which is not something that you usually see from Mattel, but it's just something to note. We don't really have too much going on paint-wise, but what we do have is a pretty fun-looking paint scheme that I actually do kind of like. I like it actually a lot more in person than I expected to after seeing the promotional images, but again, that being said, it's definitely not the best Pteranodon from Mattel, that's for sure. So if you are interested in picking this figure up, make sure you head to the description, as I will have a link right there for you to pick this up on Amazon.com. So again, pretty fun Pteranodon figure, potentially worth a purchase. If you are interested, check the description, and otherwise make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.